Did you know that there are over 800,000 franchise businesses in the US and franchising employs over 8 million people? So if you look around, there are over 4,000 different brands just in the United States alone. But how exactly does franchising work? Like, how do they make money? And who owns these businesses that you see all around you? So after daydreaming about opening my own franchise back in 2009, I finally built and opened my first one back in 2017. But although franchising is a common term you hear every day, there's so much confusion to them. We know that brands like McDonald's and Taco Bell and Dunkin' Donuts are franchises, but what about Ace Hardware and Budget Blinds and Great Clips and Planet Fitness? Did you know that those are all franchises too? Well, in this video, let's talk about what is a franchise? How does it work? And we even talk about how you can make money owning a franchise, well, if you want to. And as we get started here, drop me a comment below with your favorite franchise. Let's get into it. Franchising started back in 1891 with Harper Method Shops, a hair salon. So franchising as a business model is well over 100 years old, which is pretty crazy. Now, some would say that because of their insane numbers of being over 800,000 businesses, around over 100 years, 4,000 different brands, and that 1 out of every 10 businesses is a franchise, according to the United States Census Bureau, that franchising is the most proven and successful business model in history. Who says that? Tarek, you say that. Oh yeah, I do, don't I? But hold on. Why are sports teams called franchises then? I mean, you hear NFL, NBA teams called franchises all the time. Now, to answer that, let's first answer the question on what is a franchise. A franchise is simply an agreement, otherwise known as a license, that allows a franchisee the rights to operate a business using a franchisor's names, logos, trademarks, and their overall operations on running the business. So let's use McDonald's as the example. The first thing you need to know is 2 different terms: the term franchisor and franchisee. Now, the franchisor is the company that issues the license to be able to own and operate the franchise. So in this case, McDonald's is the franchisor. Now, the person on the other side of the deal buying the rights to own and operate a McDonald's is a franchisee. Now, if you got together with some of your family and some of your buddies and you all pooled your money together and went out and you bought a McDonald's, meaning you signed something called a franchise agreement with McDonald's, then you are the franchisee, and in simple terms, you are the franchise owner. Congratulations, you are the proud owner of a McDonald's franchise. But what happens next? Well, that's a good question. Let's rewind for a second. The entire idea behind a franchise is that the franchisor has figured out the business model already. They have already proven that the system works. There are over 13,000 McDonald's in the United States, so we know the system works. But you don't need 13,000 locations to know that the system works. The franchise I bought only had about 90 locations when I bought in. So again, it makes franchising like a business in a box. It's like going to IKEA, and instead of that cool kitchen table that has all the pieces pre-made and the tools and the instruction manual, you're buying a business like that instead. And that's the entire point of buying a franchise, so that you don't need to figure everything out, and your job is to follow the system as best as you can. Back to you and your new McDonald's that you own. So to finalize everything, you'll need to sign your franchise agreement, which is the full legal document between you and the franchisor, aka McDonald's. Now, when you sign your agreement, you will have to pay your initial franchise fee. McDonald's franchise fee is $45,000. You mean you can own a McDonald's for only $45,000? Well, sort of. The initial franchise fee just buys you the rights to own and operate a McDonald's. Then what happens next is you still need to find a location. Depending upon the franchise, they could have one pre-selected, but most of the time you'll need to work with a commercial real estate agent and go find your own. Now, keep in mind, not all franchises have a physical location. Take my buddy Adam, for example. Adam makes $5 million a year operating his little franchise empire. He owns a bunch of Budget Blinds franchises, about 7 of them. But there's no build out. He may rent a small office, but you don't need to go build something expensive like a McDonald's would be. And according to their public disclosure documents, a McDonald's costs between $1.3 million to $2.4 million to get open. Holy that's a lot of money. Keep in mind, not all franchises are that expensive. My franchise costs about $310,000 to get open. We built that one from scratch. But now that you're a McDonald's franchise owner, you've got to sign a lease and then start building out your McDonald's location. And when all is said and done, you'll probably have put up about 20% of your own money for the down payment and get a loan for the other 80%. So in this case, if McDonald's cost you $2 million to get open, you need to come up with 400 grand and then get a loan for about 1.6 million. Is that making sense so far? Now, there are franchises that have franchise fees as low as a few $1,000s, and you could be operating your business for 10 to 15K all in. But that's really the exception, not the rule. The average franchise fee is going to be around 35K, and it'll cost you around 200 to 300K to get up and running. In the example of budget blinds, it'll cost you around 140 to 200K to get up and running. By the way, if you want to see what franchises are available in your area, you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, and our team at Franchise Empire can check on that for you at no cost. Now back to McDonald's. Now McDonald's is not doing the work for you. You as the franchise owner are responsible for running the business and making the decision. So you need to go out and find the general contractor to build your McDonald's. You are hiring them. You need to find and hire a manager and staff for your business. Going back to the IKEA example, you bought the furniture. Inside the box has everything you need, but you still need to get it home and put it together. And so depending upon your situation, you may say, hey, I got money, so I'm gonna hire someone to get this box back to my house and hire them to put it together for me. So for people that own 5, 10, 20 franchises, they have a team, and their team is managing the day-to-day of the business. They aren't at the McDonald's working the register. Now, when you start to make money in your new McDonald's franchise, you owe royalties on your sales. Royalties are the ongoing fees that you pay to be able to own and operate your franchise. In the case of McDonald's, the royalty is actually 4% of their total sales. There's a marketing and advertising royalty of 4% as well, so a total of 8%. Now this is actually on the low side. A lot of food franchises will have a 6 to 8% royalty on sales and another 1 to 3% on marketing and advertising, so you'll typically pay around 10% of your sales in total royalties. And I looked up the numbers on McDonald's, and 80% of them have sales of over $2.7 million. So if we round up to 10% just on royalties alone, McDonald's would make about $270,000 in royalties from you on that location. Some people think it's a great deal, and some people think it's way too much. I'll let you be the judge of that. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's too much or do you think it's fair? So oftentimes with McDonald's, they actually own the land, so you are paying them rent. Now that's a whole other video to cover because McDonald's actually makes a lot of their money that way. Make sure you're subscribed and let me know down below if you want to make a video just on how McDonald's makes its money. But why do businesses franchise? Like, why wouldn't McDonald's just open up their own locations, keep all of the profits to themselves? And what's the difference between a chain or corporate stores and a franchise? Great question. A chain is just a name for businesses that operate a bunch of different locations. So they could be franchise owned or corporate owned. In the case of McDonald's, they have franchise owned locations and corporate owned locations, in case you wanted to get confused. The corporate ones means McDonald's actually owns and operates those themselves. Now in 2022, they had 12,764 franchise locations and 691 corporate owned locations. Now there are some businesses that only operate corporate locations and don't actually franchise at all. Chipotle is not a franchise, Shake Shack is not a franchise, White Castle, In-N-Out, those are all corporate locations. So why do some companies franchise? Why not just own all of the stores themselves? That's another good question. Most of the time, companies decide to franchise so they can grow faster and reduce their risk. Well, here's an example. In 2022, Crumble Cookie opened over 363 locations in 1 year. Imagine, that's 30 locations open every single month. The only reason they could pull that off is because they are franchise-owned locations. It's a lot easier when you have a hands-on-the-ground owner calling the shots than having to take the risk and hire hundreds of people corporately. And that's how franchising helps reduce the risk for the franchisor. Instead of having to take out huge loans in order to be able to hire more people and take the risk of building locations that cost hundreds of thousands, in the case of McDonald's, millions of dollars, franchisees pay them to open stores, and the franchisors get a cut on every store. So the franchising model is actually pretty genius. And most people only think about it from the perspective of becoming a franchisee. Another side of things is to become the franchisor. Some of those franchisors are selling for $20, $30, $50 million and more to huge private equity companies. So franchising becomes a huge win-win. The franchisor keeps expanding with reduced risk, and aspiring entrepreneurs like you and I who don't want to have to figure everything out on their own and take the risk of starting from scratch get a business model that has been proven to work. Now, some people wonder, well, how does owning a franchise compare as an investment to something like I don't know, real estate? Well, I answer that question in this video where I crunch the numbers and tell you which makes more money, franchising or real estate. And if you want to get more educated on franchising and the 4 specific franchise buying strategies and how to fund them, you can grab my free masterclass training down below. I'll see you on the next one.